Hi guys, it's your professor here, and I promised you information on how to write your professor an email. Now, this is a skill that's super important to know and to learn, and the quicker you learn how to send an appropriate email, the better it is. And I say better because um, the first time you see a professor or interact with a professor is probably through email. Maybe you email a professor before school starts because you wanted to see what the books are, or you have a question about something. So this the first time a professor will know who you are and know your name, and the first time you'll be judged by a professor. And there's been lots of interesting emails I've gotten through the years. So I'm hoping that what I show you right now today is going to help you. I have a Word document up and because I want to actually write one out for you as we're together today. So there's a couple of components that you need to know. So the first one is the salutation, right? It's the hello, it's the how are you, professor, or hello part. Then you have the name and section number. Um, as you well know, professors don't just teach one class, they teach several classes, different sections of the same class. So you're going to want to know, you're going to want to tell them what class you're in. Um, in addition, they also probably have done maybe the same section or the same class, but each section does something different. So giving them this context allows the professor to know at least be in the to at least be in the ballpark as far as what they could expect from your email and maybe possibly how to best answer your question. And of course your name, because you need to know your name, right? So then there's a couple of things. You're going to do that. You're going to give some background or context to the question. And then you're going to ask the question, but it's going to be very specific. And then you're going to kind of exit the conversation. So you're going to end it and give your name again. Okay, so those are the basic components of writing an email to your professor. This is like a checklist. Please know that this is what we want. This is what we want. So let's go ahead and start one. So let's say Johnny Appleseed is the student and Professor Smith, John Smith, is the professor. So you're going to start with the salutation. You can start with hello, Professor Smith, comma, or you can say, dear Professor Smith, comma. Okay, so this either of these two are okay. I would lean with dear Professor Smith if you don't have a rapport with your professor, if you don't have a relationship with your professor. This is the first time you're emailing them. I would go with the dear Professor Smith. If not, then if this is maybe a couple weeks in and you've emailed a couple of times back and forth, I would go ahead and use hello, Professor Smith, right? Because at that point they may know you or know enough about you to know that you're in their class, right? They may not remember which class, but they know you're in their class. So these two are acceptable. Again, one is more formal than the other. This is just depending on your relationship with the professor, right? So for this one, since it's probably, ooh, probably the beginning of the semester, I'm going to use Dear Professor Smith. Now, you see I have a comma there? That comma means this is a salutation. It's a pause, right? So you're going to hit return or enter twice, and you're going to start a new paragraph. Do not Dear Professor Smith, what is my homework? Oh, I get less of these so many times. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I don't even know why are you emailing me? So that's not what you want to do. So you want to start off there. Okay. So then the next thing is that you want to put your name and section number. So my name is Johnny Appleseed. and I'm in your English 1301 2001 class. So I want you to notice that it has the subject and then the class and then the section number. So that is important to put in there. But you have a science professor or a math professor or a history professor, definitely put that in there as well. Maybe it's like HIST 1301 2005, right? Maybe that's the section number. Make sure that that's in there. Then you're done with that. So a line can be a paragraph. So you hit that enter button twice and you start a new paragraph. And then you will say, in class on Thursday, you mentioned part of the requirements for the essay, which included using MLA format and being 3 pages long, right? So it's a little bit of context, and it shows the professor that you were actually listening during the conversation and during class, right? So this is really, really great because it gives me when we had the conversation or where, and then we put a comma there, on class on Thursday, comma. So it gives me when the conversation was had or when maybe the confusion happened. So it reminds me, okay, on class on Thursday, great. If you want to put a date on there, you can. But if it's really close to the time where you interacted with your professor, you don't need a date there. So you have when, you have where, and then you kind of regurgitate the context of it. And context means the background, like what you understand the requirements or the information or the content that you need so far. Okay, so we're already here. So we've done the salutation, the name and section number, the background or context to the question. Then you ask the question and you want to be specific. So for maybe something like this, maybe Mr. Johnny Appleseed is confused about whether the works cited page is part of the 3-page count, right? Maybe they are confused about that. So they want to ask it. And so maybe they say something like, does that mean that the works cited page is included in the word count? Right? That's a very specific question. If it's not specific, the professor is going to be like, why didn't you read the assignment sheet? Right? So that's a very specific question, and a professor would be very happy to answer that. But if you say something like, this is this MLA format and it's 3 pages long, do I still have to do? Don't ask that. Do not ask that. That's not a good question to ask. Maybe something like, don't ask that either. Right? Why? Because more than likely this is already in the assignment sheet. So you want to read the assignment sheet, or you want to read the assignment, or read the discussion board post, or read whatever you need to read a couple of times to make sure, right? To make sure that your question isn't answered. Then you want to ask your professor, right? So those are the questions you don't want to ask. But this is okay. Does that mean that the works cited page is included in the word count? Right? So you have the question, it's specific, and then now you want to end it. So thank you so much for your time, Professor. Then Johnny, right? So you want to give them like, thank you. You want to like kind of give that ending. And then you want to, of course, close it out with your name. Johnny. or Mr. Apperseed, however you interact with your professor. And that, my friends, is how you write a really good, really succinct, and really smile inducing email to your professor. So definite a recap. Let's do a recap here. So you have the salutation here. You're going to address your professor with their last name and the name professor. Do not address them as first name, last name. Do not address them as Mr. or Mrs. unless they ask you to do it. Of course, if you're in my class, address me as professor. And so you're going to say, Dear Professor such and such, comma. You're going to start a new paragraph and you're going to say what your name is and what class that you're in. Period. Start a new program. You're going to give a little background or a little context for your question, right? And in that, you may want to say whether the comment or the question comes from something that was said in class, or if it was said on a certain day. Maybe something came from your D2L course. So you can say something like, according to the discussion post on D2L, I'm supposed to do this, right? Now you ask a question, and it's got to be a specific question. It can't be just, so where's this? Well, that's not a specific question. What does this mean, right? So you ask a great specific question, and it goes right here. And then you start ending the email. Thank you very much for your time, Professor. You want to definitely thank the professor for their time for answering your question, and then give your name at the end, and then you're done. And I want you to notice how each one of these is its own little paragraph here, right? Short, sweet, and to the point. Can't wait to see your wonderful emails, guys. Bye.